Just one man held the small town of Missouri for decades. Burglary, arson, rape, sex trafficking, just name it. He was involved in all of it. He was no other person than Kenneth Rex McElroy. You might be wondering, was he indicted throughout the decades he reigned terror? Yeah, you were right. He was indicted for 21 times and was never convicted all through the 21 times. He was the grand patron of making witnesses disappear. No one intimidates judges and jury more than him. All charges were dropped like no crime was committed. And McElroy would always walk free, again, and again. One fateful morning in July 1981, on the main street of Skidmore, Missouri, McElroy was shot dead right in his truck. More than 40 people witnessed his killing, and as usual, nobody saw a thing. Who exactly killed Kenneth Rex McElroy? Why was he killed? Why did the entire town choose to stay silent? Now let's rewind back to the beginning. The making of a bully. On 16th of June 1934, the family of McElroy, their 15th child, and they named him Kenneth Rex McElroy. He was the number 15th out of 16 children. Both of his parents were migrant tenant farmers. They traveled far and wide, seeking for greener pastures, until they decided to make Skidmore their home. Kenneth wasn't the brightest in class. He had difficulty with learning. He threw in the towel at age 15 by dropping out school just in the 8th grade. Talk about womanizing, cattle wrestling, petty thief. No one else beat Kenneth to it. For over 2 decades, McElroy was suspected of stealing gasoline from cars, grains for stores, livestock, alcohol, antiques, and artworks. He was a smart and cunning thief. For 21 times, charges were labeled against him, but he manages to escape conviction at almost every time. Surprised how he pulled that off, right? His antics was always the same: make witnesses disappear. People in town refused to testify because McElroy was alleged to have intimidated them. He would park outside their homes, follow them, keeping an eye on them for hours, sometimes even days. He had a very good attorney in person of Richard Gene McFadden of Gallatin, Missouri. McFadden had only one job: keep him free, again, and again.
The women and the children. It was recorded that McElroy had at least 17 children, birthed by 3 wives, 3 concubines, and other girls. Sharon, his second wife, birthed 5 children for him. Alice Wood, his third wife, birthed 3 more kids. His fourth wife, Trina McLeod, birthed 3 more. Other children came from his numerous women flocking around him. Some of his kids were even put up for adoption. Trina McLeod's story revealed who Kenneth McElroy was. 35 years old Kenneth McElroy met 12 years old Trina. She was in the 8th grade then, but he couldn't keep his eyes off her. He raped her countless times. Trina's parents opposed the relationship, and guess what? Angry Kenneth McElroy burnt down their house. He shot the family's dog. Trina dropped out of school at 14 because she was carrying Kenneth McElroy's baby. Now after a while, she moved in with McElroy and his third wife, Alice. McElroy went on to divorce Alice and married Trina. He didn't marry her out of love. She was the only witness of statutory rape charges labeled against him, so he married her. Few days after delivering her baby, Trina and Alice decided to flee to Trina's parents' new house. McElroy traced them, brought them back, then waited until the McLeods lulled away before burning down their house and shooting the new dog the second time.
A town living in fear. According to Trina, McElroy was indicted in June 1973. He was indicted for statutory rape, arson, and assault. He was then arrested, booked, and arraigned. The jury granted him a bail of $2,500. Trina and her little baby were placed in foster care in Maryville, Missouri. Sighted in his car, McElroy kept staring at the foster home for hours. He told the foster family he would trade girl for girl. "I know what schools your biological daughters attend. I know what bus route they rode." Fast forward to 1976, Skidmore, a local farmer named Romaine Henry, reported that McElroy shot him twice with a shotgun, all because Henry challenged him that no weapons were allowed on his property. McElroy was charged with assault with intent to kill. Guess what? He denied ever being on Henry's property. Days turned to weeks, weeks turned to months as the case dragged on. Henry reported that McElroy must have parked outside of his home for over 100 times. On the trial day, 2 raccoon hunters testified that they were with McElroy on that day, and they even shared a beer together, and they were nowhere near Henry's property. And McElroy's attorney forced Henry to admit he had concealed an old petty criminal conviction from over 30 years prior. Again, McElroy was acquitted. Allegedly, he stalked and intimidated some of the jury members before the trial. He even burnt down a barn owned by one of the jury.
The shooting that started the end. One bright sunny afternoon in 1980, one of McElroy's children got into a heated argument at a local grocery store. The store was owned by 70-years-old Ernest Bo Bowenkamp and his wife Lois. McElroy's child and a clerk named Evelyn Sumi allegedly tried to steal some candy bars. As usual, McElroy responded the way he always does. He started stalking the Bowenkamp family, day and night. One hot afternoon, he decided to threaten Bo Bowenkamp at the back of his own store while holding a shotgun in his hand. Both got into a fight, and what followed was shocking. McElroy shot Bowenkamp in the neck. Luckily, Bowenkamp survived the shot. McElroy was arrested afterwards, charged with first-degree assault, which was a charge that carried possible life sentence as it then. He was finally convicted of second-degree assault in June 1981. What did he get? A mere 2-year sentence. But he was freed on bail pending his appeal. You could already guess what he did immediately he was released. Brandishing an M1 Garand rifle with bayonet attached, he headed straight to the DNG Tavern, threatened Bowenkamp on what he would do to him and his family. Several patrons who were present at the tavern decided it was time to find out a way to legally stop this serial psychopath.
The morning of July 10th, and yet again McElroy's appeal hearing was delayed again. It was a bright sunny day on July 10th, 1981. The people of Skidmore all gathered at the Legion Hall, right in the heart of the town, standing alongside Nottoway County Sheriff Dan Estes. They all one thing to discuss with the sheriff: how they could break free of the shackles of McElroy. Words flew like wind. McElroy arrived at the DNG Tavern with his wife Trina. Estes told the group, "I do not want trouble in my town. Do not lock horns with him." Estes strongly advised they form a neighborhood watch program instead. Then Estes left town in his black police cruiser. The inhabitants of Skidmore didn't agree to Estes' suggestion. They all walked to the tavern in their numbers, all chanting in one accord that McElroy must leave. The bar was filled to the brim with no leg space anymore. McElroy maintained his steeze and composure this time. He finished his drinks, bought more packs of beer for the road, left the bar, and got into his red pickup truck. The shooting. Just while sitting in his red truck, probably thinking of what atrocities to commit next, McElroy was shot several times. Bullets were rained on his truck, but he was only hit twice, once by a centerfire bullet and a .22 rimfire bullet. 2 different shooters, 2 different bullets, littered around the parking lot were 46 potential witnesses, which included his wife Trina McElroy, who was sitting next to him in the truck. No one cared to call an ambulance. No one tried to save him. Every single witness claimed they didn't see who fired those shots. Every witness could not name the assailant. One man helped Trina as she scrambled her way out of the truck screaming, fully soaked in blood. As usual, no one knew the name of the man. No one saw anything. The DA turned down pressing charge. A very detailed and meticulous investigation followed on who took McElroy's life. No charges were made either. A renowned Missouri journalist, Steve Booher, described the attitude of some of the inhabitants of Skidmore in few words: he needed killing. What happened after? Kenneth Rex McElroy was buried at the Memorial Park Cemetery in St. Joseph, Missouri, July 9, 1984, 3 years after his murder. Trina McElroy filed a $5 million wrongful death lawsuit against the people of Skidmore, against the county of Nottoway, against the sheriff Danny Estes, the then mayor Steve Peters, and Del Clement, who Trina McElroy claimed was the shooter. Del Clement was never brought to court. The case was settled out of court for just $17,600. No one was charged. No one admitted to being guilty. The stated reason was avoiding costly legal fees. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months, and months to years. Trina remarried and moved to Lebanon, a small town in Missouri. It was a sad news for her family on January 24, 2012, as she died of cancer on the 55th birthday. No one was ever charged in connection with the death of the town's biggest bully, Kenneth Rex McElroy. Shot in cold blood, unarmed, in front of almost 50 people, and yet again, no one saw a thing. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and do not forget to share my videos.